Hello Canada, welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, Alias Guy. Well, we got some pretty wild news going on today. Seems like the Liberals are the same as they have been in the last 10 years. Carney appoints his new ministers and said it was going to be a smaller, more robust cabinet. It ended up being bigger and costing us even more. He punted a few into the backbenches, but kept a lot of the same old, same old. No surprise there. Now with this news coming out, you thought Western alienation was bad before. Socially, let's just say it is just exasperated what was already an intense situation, and it's not looking good for the communist central part of Canada. Carney might have just guaranteed that Saskatchewan and Alberta will be independent in the not so soon future. There was a vote dispute going on that we're going to talk about first thing. We're going to get into a couple other little stories. Honda closing their plant or delaying their plant. It'll be closing. And we're just going to touch on a few of the auto sector things that are going on, because in the back rooms, there's also rumors that there's actually news out there. Canada's not talking about it right now because they don't want to have too much reality hit Canadians. Mainstream likes doing what they do best, propaganda. But it sounds like Volkswagen is in the same boat as well. And then we're going to let Poilievre have his words on this new cabinet. Let's get started with this ballot that could change the Terrebonne riding. Now, this is quite interesting. I'm going to play the clip, and then we're going to dive down into this, because this might be a lot bigger than what most people realize. Let's take a listen.
Resident of Terrebonne in Quebec is wondering if her vote could have made the difference in the election. But her vote didn't count because her mail-in vote was returned to sender. It turns out that there was an error in the label with the address that was provided by Elections Canada for her.
C'est Elections Canada qui a collé cette étiquette-là.
Elections Canada glued this label on the envelope. I had nothing to fill.
Elections Canada says they are investigating and acknowledge that there was indeed a mistake and the postal code printed in the envelope was wrong. The riding of Terrebonne has gone through a vote count roller coaster, flipping back and forth between the Liberals and the Bloc Québécois. On election night, the riding of Terrebonne first went to Liberal candidate Tatiana Auguste by 35 votes. But after a standard validation process, it flipped to the incumbent Bloc Québécois MP Nathalie Saint-Clair-Desgagnés by 44 votes, which triggered an automatic judicial recount. A few days later, the results of the recount showed that Auguste had won by just one vote. That made international headlines, but angered Bossé.
Moi, ça m'a beaucoup fâchée, surtout.
Bossé says she's upset that her vote wasn't counted.
J'ai voté pour le Bloc.
I voted for the Bloc, she said, so maybe it was the vote that could have changed something. This professor says this situation has the potential to change the outcome of the election.
Actually can be contested, the contested election provision.
Elections Canada's contested elections process allows for any voter or candidate in that electoral district to bring an application for a contested election before a provincial or federal judge. The judge determines whether there were any irregularities and either dismisses the application or annuls the results of the election.
The provision actually talks about corrupt or illegal practices and things like that. But I mean, this doesn't apply here. But what does apply here is the irregularity one, right? It says that if there is any type of irregularity, that has an effect on the result, then the person can actually contest.
The Bloc candidate in Terrebonne says she's now evaluating all her options.
Quite interesting, to say the least. Now, here's the thing. Not a lot
Hello,
of people are
I'm Matt
actually
Galloway,
talking
and this
about.
is
Those are mass printed. How many were labeled wrong? It's not like there's one person sitting there writing down the postal code and the address. Those are done computer through a huge printer, shot through, and then mailed out. So if there's one that's been mislabeled, how many more? If you have your form sent back to you, check that address. This may actually be, I'm just going to put it out there, an intentional, directly intentional mistake. Now, who knows? But the odds of the computer just all of a sudden printing one wrong when you're printing off so many for a certain area is suspicious. Like I said, it's humans make errors. The computer, once it's told what to do, and the printer printing it off, don't. So if you got your mail-in ballot sent back to you and you're wondering why, check the return address, check the printed version, and we may find this is a lot larger than what the media is making it out to be, of just one mistake. I highly doubt that. We'll keep up with the story and find out where it goes, but by the sounds of it, going through the legal proceedings, they are going to have a completely new election in that riding. So I urge you, even if you're not in the Terrebonne and you did get your mail-in rebate, your mail-in vote sent back to you, check that, because we may find that this is across Canada. And if that's the case, we have some serious problems. Now, we're going to move on. Bell Canada. And this isn't a Trump thing. This is a Canada lost decade liberal thing. And like Einstein says, the history or the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And we've done that. So Bell Canada scraps Labrador's high-speed internet project and plans now to invest in the U.S. Bell Canada's cancellation of a $32 million contract to expand high-speed internet and cell service on Labrador's north coast comes as the telecommunications giant has confirmed plans to expand southward in the United States. After receiving millions in government subsidies for the Labrador North Wireless Broadband Project, Canada's largest communications company says it's no longer feasible to complete the expansion due to rising costs and competition. On May 6th, the Nunavut government announced Bell had cancelled the contract for the project, which came to the Inuit government as a shock and deep disappointment. The Nunavut said Bell estimated the cost of completing the project had risen to $110 million, and that Bell's subscription numbers in the region have declined by 69%. In 2022, the project was estimated to cost $22 million, with an additional $10 million added in 2023. I kind of went over a little wee bit of numbers in this, and it would be cheaper to buy every single person there, yes, a Starlink, than it would be to get this up and rolling and dish out all of this extra money, and then to keep the upgrades and all the rest of the crap, to pay for the bureaucracy, the permits, all the rest of it, like just everything. This is insanity. Now, I don't know exactly where they got the percentage of people that have dropped off now, but I'm assuming it's because of Starlink. Starlink, when they have a sale, it's like $250. Boom. You're done. You're online. You can put them anywhere. You can put it outside in the grass. They work. So, yeah. Moving on. This whale that had beached a few days ago. First, the media was all climate alarmism, right? It's all the climate. Oh, we can expect this. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Sounds like it was blunt force trauma. Let's just take a listen.
The peace of Tofino's Long Beach can usually wash Giselle Martin's troubles away.
A whale just spouted out there. Look, another whale just spouted out there. Do you see them? There.
But in this spring's gray whale migration, the Tloquet Tribal Park's guardian is feeling grief. For this young gray whale found washed up dead here, young enough a necropsy reveals that it may still have been with its mother at 1 year old, its body showing signs of a vessel strike.
There's an unusual amount of deaths happening right now with the gray whales. This whale who's had an unfortunate early end. They should not be dead at all. They should be alive and thriving.
According to Fisheries and Oceans, this is the 105th dead gray whale to wash up between Mexico and Alaska this year alone.
We've seen quite a few deaths in California, Oregon, Washington, and now in BC. This is our second dead gray whale this year.
According to this Parks Canada marine ecologist, a necropsy on the whale that measured 10 meters in length revealed it was emaciated and showed signs of blunt force trauma, potentially from a vessel strike.
So there was hemorrhaging just near the back of the skull, so they did find some hemorrhaging there. So I think from what I understand, whales that are emaciated, they're not as high in the water, they don't have as much blubber that keeps them high, so, and also their behaviors make them more susceptible to vessel strikes. So likely being underweight, not well, and not really surfacing high could likely have made an increase in their chance of being hit by a vessel.
Tloquet believe they are connected to their ancestors through these whales, so they guarded it by night, and Saturday and Sunday held ceremony around the young male. The beach closed off to the public by Parks Canada to give them space. What can be harvested from the whale is being taken for cultural purposes, its bones and blubber.
They'll be taking the whale oil for different things, usages. We use it to help maintain the wood on our canoes.
And Martin is relieved the whale's meat is going to feed Tofino's wildlife.
I brought a scoop of these scraps out and placed them far out, and these ravens came in. And when I got home, I swear it's these same ravens that landed in a tree right by my house, and they were just singing, and it was like, ah.
A silver lining from Tloquet's first harvest of a whale since 1910. More tests are expected on the whale's remains to shed light on what's happening to these greys in the days ahead.
It's a good thing that they're going to try to use and purpose all that they can from this. It's actually nice to see rather than just having it waste away. Again, media off the hop was throwing this all that it was all climate, and now they kind of figured it's blunt force. So it got hit by a ship or something, and even that's yet not 100%. We'll see what happens once the autopsy or necropsy or whatever they want to call it is done. EB and Carney seem to be really quiet on this, the bid on one of the last oil refineries in BC. So the proposed sale of British Columbia's only 2 oil refineries to US-based energy giant Sunoco is drawing fierce criticism from the unions. Canada's in really, like, we've had a decade of just a disastrous decade of horrible policies. And with the EV closures that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, the entire nation economically is in just tatters. So the proposed sale of one of British Columbia's only 2 oil refineries, US-based energy, is obviously getting fierce criticism. who are calling on the federal government to block the $9 billion deal in order to protect Canadian jobs. The Burnaby refinery, which supplies nearly 1/3 of the region's gasoline and jet fuel, is reportedly on the market. If the sale proceeds, particularly in BC, where the United States currently purchases over half of the province's exports, particularly in minerals and energy. This is sad. Like, we're getting ate up, we're getting cut and sold off in pieces because of this liberal party that the Eastern communist ideas decided they're going to keep in power. Well, they're going to feel the wrath because, like I said, with this new cabinet that Carneys picked out, it has really ramped up what was already an escalating issue out west. And by the looks of it, that cabinet, I think, sealed Canada's fate. We'll see what happens. Let's dabble onto this whole EV. Now, I've not in previous episodes, I've blown this all apart. I mean, it's goodbye. You kept the Liberals in, you say goodbye to your auto industry. Not only do you have the worst investments ever on Canadian taxpayers with these EV plants, everybody knew from the beginning. Anybody who knew anything about, first of all, vehicles, second of all, about weather, and third, batteries, could put together that EVs in Canada was a really, really dumb idea. Let's just revamp where we're at.
Premier Doug Ford and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau standing side by side today as they announce a major investment to build electric hybrid vehicles. The news conference showed their ideological differences, but also now they're trying to get along as parents wait to see what they have to say about affordable childcare.
Boy, see, propaganda at its best, eh? Oh my God, I had to show that. I was gonna cut the clip shorter, but I had to show that. This is media, right? This is what they do. You got to remember, this is 3 years ago, okay?
We're announcing great news today.
Oh, sorry, you might want to get your puke buckets. The tour is going to speak here for a little bit.
Is going to secure thousands of good middle-class jobs across southern Ontario and build a strong, sustainable economy.
Both the Prime Minister and the Premier say Honda Canada's plan to spend $1.4 billion over 6 years in upgrades at its Alliston plant to make electric hybrid vehicles will create jobs and help the economy. The federal and provincial governments are each putting in almost $132 million as well.
This means the cars of the future will be built right here.
Doug Ford has not always been known as a champion of electric vehicles. After coming to power in 2018, he canceled rebates for people buying them. He also doubled down on that decision in November.
No, we aren't bringing it back. I'm not going to give rebates to the guys that are buying $100,000 and some odd cars, millionaires.
When asked today if he would reconsider rebates, the Premier didn't really answer.
To set the record straight, since we've been in office, electric vehicles have tripled in sales. So I guess that was a good decision.
However,
right, that's a good decision. Now we're going to move up ahead here. This is 1 year ago.
Honda Canada announced today it will make the largest auto investment in Canadian history. The Japanese automaker plans to open 4 new manufacturing plants in Ontario to assemble electric vehicles and make the batteries for them. Emily Taylor joining us live in studio with the details. Good evening, Emily.
Good evening, Matt. It's a $15 billion investment from Honda that will create around 1,000 direct jobs. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Premier Doug Ford joined the company for the announcement today at Honda's current plant in Alliston, Ontario. The federal and provincial governments are expected to support around $5 billion of this project through tax credits and indirect incentives. The 4 new plants are expected to create Canada's first electric vehicle supply chain, from creating the batteries and materials to assembling the cars. But it's unclear what exactly will happen with the current plant and the around 4,200 workers who are currently there. The union representing auto workers, Unifor, is calling on the government to ensure workers are supported through this transition to electric vehicle production.
These investments will create well over 1,000 well-paying manufacturing jobs, as well as many, many construction jobs, and of course, jobs all across Ontario and the country for auto parts suppliers.
It's incumbent on governments who are making these investments to ensure that the jobs on the other end are good paying jobs, are union jobs in our opinion, because that's one way that you make sure that these jobs remain stable over a long period of time, and making sure that workers are protected through this transition that we're going through.
The federal Conservatives, however, were quick to slam the deal, saying there's no promise that the 1,000 new jobs will go to Ontarians and not foreign workers. Honda says the new Ontario factories should be ready by 2028 and will produce 240,000 vehicles a year when fully scaled. Back to you.
Now, Honda, they ended up getting $5 billion. There it is, Honda to get $5 billion in government assistance on these EV plants. And then 9 months ago, just a reminder.
As Canada races to become a leader in the electric vehicle supply chain, some companies are taking their foot off the gas. Ford and General Motors are building fewer electric vehicles, while this week construction was suspended at a battery component plant in Ontario. It has some asking if Canada's EV investments are worth the cost. CTV's Colton Prale reports.
Celebrated 2 years ago, now construction on Umicore's $2.7 billion battery component plant near Kingston, Ontario is indefinitely delayed. It happened just a week after this Oakville Ford plant announced electric vehicle production would be delayed 2 years, while it focused on making new models of the gas-powered F-Series pickup truck, despite receiving nearly $600 million in government subsidies to better produce electric vehicles.
We had to spend the money. I believe we spent it too early because the reality is 90% of the auto industry is still internal combustion engine.
High costs and lackluster infrastructure mean globally EV sales are slowing, production is dropping, while Canada pours billions into efforts to become an EV supply chain leader. Since 2020, the country has brought in more than $46 billion in investments across the EV supply chain, but it's costing even more. Over $52 billion in supports from Ottawa and the provinces.
Ouch. $52 billion gone so far.
Some say the government needs to scale back on EV investments.
If you double down, it's the type of thing that could continue to cost taxpayers for decades to come.
Ottawa is standing by its investments, saying these delays are common as the industry focuses on long-term success. Automakers argue they were needed to prepare Canada's economy for the future, even if demand has yet to meet expectations.
I don't think we need to be wringing our hands that somehow we've made an error here in terms of banking on electrification.
Experts say there is a silver lining. The longer companies delay production, the less time they'll have to access government subsidies. It means Canada's EV supply chain could be cheaper for taxpayers, but only if it comes online later than expected.
Yeah. And then there's today. Another one bites the dust.
Because of U.S. President Donald Trump and his trade war on Canada.
Did you catch that? This is an excuse. This is a lie. This industry has been in a downward spiral, like a toilet bowl flush. But this is giving excuse. This is what companies are using for excuses, because they took Canadian tax dollars. And guess what? Use the propaganda machine. Use it. Use it to your advantage, especially when you've got the same government in again. Ha-ha!
Japanese automaker Honda says it is postponing a $15 billion investment in Ontario because of Trump's 25% auto tariffs. Now, that word is just coming in from Honda headquarters in Japan this morning. Honda is planning to build 4 new electric vehicle plants in Ontario. The automaker builds it, or has built it, as Canada's first comprehensive electric vehicle supply chain. Let's listen into the announcement that came from Honda Japan headquarters earlier this morning.
Looking ahead, the electric vehicle market growth has slowed down more than expected. We reviewed trade timing of our comprehensive value change project in Canada and decided to postpone our large-scale investment.
So that is the announcement from the Honda headquarters in Japan. And let's bring in Scott Peterson.
That's funny. He didn't say anything about Trump's tariffs. But the media sure did. Moving on. St. Thomas. Yes, St. Thomas. VW plant facing EV sector headwinds, delays possible. The bankruptcy of Volkswagen's partner in electric vehicle battery production will not threaten the automaker's St. Thomas investment, industry experts say, which we know that that company is gone. Another one in Canada bit the dust. The development does, however, demonstrate increasing volatility on the EV sector during this high tariff automotive environment, and the $7 billion PowerCo EV power plant in southwestern Ontario may face future delays, they said. Northvolt, an electric vehicle battery maker, filed for bankruptcy in Sweden recently, and Volkswagen is its largest shareholder with a 21% stake in the company after more than $700 million were invested. It is not yet known how the bankruptcy will affect Northvolt's North American operations, including a planned EV battery plant in Quebec. But the bankruptcy illustrates how quickly the sector can change and how the current automotive tariff threat by the U.S. federal government against Canada has worsened instability, said Joe McCabe. Auto industry, blah, 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 blah. And again, they're using Trump. Yes, keep using Trump. In the meantime, America's economy is booming. Now, let's take a listen in to Pierre Poilievre.
So I'd like to begin today in English by congratulating the new ministers for their roles. It's literally a 1 in a million opportunity. I think they have 40 ministers in total, and there's about 41 million people, so it's literally 1 in a million to be a minister, and a big accomplishment to get to that place. The Conservatives will take our role of holding the government accountable seriously. That doesn't mean we reflexively oppose everything the government does. When it comes, for example, to foreign affairs, if the government does a good job at defending our national interests in negotiations with the U.S., then we will support those efforts. When they're right, we'll stand with them. When they're wrong, we will oppose them. We hope the country succeeds. We want the nation to do well. We ran on the promise of bringing home Canada's promise. A very simple deal that Canada used to provide, which is that anyone who works hard gets a great life in an affordable home on a safe street under our proud flag. And that means boosting the buying power of our workers and seniors by cutting wasteful spending and bureaucracy to bring down taxes and inflation. It means freeing workers and businesses to build more affordable homes and develop resources. It means unleashing investment by cutting and simplifying taxes. It means protecting our streets with stronger laws and borders. Canadians cannot afford more high-spending, high-taxing, over-regulating, out-of-touch Liberal policies that have priced young people out of homes, inflicted crime waves on our communities, driven 2 million people to the food bank, and made life unbearable for too many hardworking and decent people. In his first press conference, Mr. Carney talked a good game about reversing Liberal policies in these areas, but now we have to find out if he was serious. And so far, it's not a promising start. The first disappointment is, unfortunately, his cabinet. He appointed Trudeau's old team and Trudeau's old advisors. Stephen Guilbeault, whose radical green agenda would shut down all future developments in our resource industry, is still the minister responsible for Quebec. Sean Fraser was the immigration minister who caused the immigration crisis, the housing minister who gave us the housing crisis, and now he's the minister responsible for addressing the Liberal crime crisis. It seems like he is the master at failing upward. Chrystia Freeland, who as finance minister hiked capital gains tax and carbon taxes and massively grew our debt to the point where we now spend $1 billion a week on interest, stays in the cabinet. Then there's Gary Anadesangari, the new Minister of Public Safety, who said the actual crimes, the actual issues around bail are quite sound, and they are embedded in, codified in law right now, as in to say that there's nothing wrong with the system. Well, in fact, there's everything wrong, as we see from the growing crime wave on our streets. Then there's François-Philippe Champagne, Trudeau's Minister of Everything, who never really managed to do anything. And he did it very loudly. But nice guy. I'll give him credit. He's a nice guy. But he was the Minister of Industry, during which we had the worst economic growth of any country in the G7. And now he's in charge of the budget. Then there's Joly, LeBlanc, Haidu, Anand. Anand was the president of the Treasury Board, during which time the bureaucracy and the consultant bills blew out of control. In all, 14 Trudeau ministers are now in Carney's cabinet. It's more of the same when Canada needs real change. Even the new additions are problematic. Gregor Robertson was the mayor of Vancouver, who pushed for total legalization of hard drugs, distribution of tax-funded opioids. During his time there was a 600% increase in overdoses. Now he's the housing minister. Well, what's his record on housing? Well, he increased housing taxes in Vancouver by 141%, and the result was that housing costs went up by 149%, more than doubling the costs and giving Vancouver, his city, the most expensive housing prices in all of North America. Now, Mr. Carney puts this gentleman in charge of housing. If this is the new blood that Mr. Carney is bringing into the cabinet, then sadly for Canadians, nothing is going to change, and the role of the Conservative Party will be more important than ever. Conservatives will continue to push real solutions. We'll put forward constructive ideas to reverse the housing crisis, make food affordable, and grow our paychecks. And these sorts of things cannot be solved with more bureaucracy and liberal laws. We need common sense results. And that's why Conservatives will continue to push for less spending, less taxes, less inflation, to lock up criminals, remove bureaucracy, speed up home building and resource production. We need to put forward real solutions on crime, for example, to toughen up penalties for repeat violent offenders and end the revolving door of broken bail. We will also demand the government actually impose a real cap on immigration so that we can stop the uncontrolled population growth that has put too much pressure on our housing, job, and healthcare systems. Finally, and most importantly, the only way we get out of this deep economic trouble the Liberals have got us into is by unleashing economic growth. And that means repealing anti-development laws, C-69, the energy cap, the industrial carbon tax, the offshore shipping ban. All of these things need to be reversed so that we can unleash the incredible power of our resources. We need a pro-growth, free enterprise agenda to take us from the worst in the G7 to the best in the G7. We should be the richest country in the world with our resources and our brilliant people, and Conservatives will continue to propose real solutions to make that happen. It's our constitutional duty to hold the government to account, and we will do that. We'll give a voice to all the voiceless, those who've been cast aside, ignored, kicked to the curb, the decent, honorable people whose lives have been turned upside down in the last decade, that feel like they've had, until recently, that they've had no voice. They've asked me to continue to fight for them, and Conservatives are going to be their voice on the floor of the House of Commons. We're proud that we brought together the biggest coalition of Conservatives in history that will all work. We want to make sure that every single person who vested their hopes in us sees us fighting for them every day, even though the final result did not go how we want it. We want to see dramatic changes, not soft reassurances. We also have an offer to make the Liberals. My message to Mr. Carney: steal my ideas. We've got great ideas. And we've been leading the charge on the debate over carbon taxes, inflation, housing prices, crime, drugs, resource development. And I note the Liberals even lifted a few of those ideas and put them in their platform to get reelected. We want to make sure that they were sincere about that. And we're going to continue to put forward solid ideas to make people's lives better every day. Because our purpose is to bring home the promise of Canada, that everyone who works hard gets a great life, that anyone from anywhere can do anything, where you get a nice, affordable home on a safe street. every day and in every way, we will fight for our people and our country to put people back in charge of their lives with bigger paychecks, abundant, affordable energy, home ownership, low taxes, safe streets, and a strong military in the country that we know and love, Canada. Thank you.
Do you denounce Alberta? Do you denounce Alberta separatism?
I'm going to skip the French part here.
Do you denounce?
Here he does it in English.
Can you just repeat your answer again in English about your
Sure.
tone and if we're going to see that in the House as well?
Well, I think it was Lincoln who said, I stand with a man when he stands right, and I stand against him when he stands wrong. So let's see what the government does. The previous government, to be frank, was a disaster. And so we had every reason to oppose basically everything they did. But here we are, a few weeks after the election, where 8 million people vested their hopes in me to deliver for them. And the best way I can do that is put forward good ideas that will make their housing affordable and their food affordable, let their streets be safe, give them a chance at growing paychecks. So when we put forward good ideas and the government accepts them, then we're going to be celebrating. Where the government acts against the interests of the country, then we will fight tooth and nail to stop them. So we will fight for the 8 million people who voted for us, and we will work with anyone that will deliver gains for those people, because we're in it for them and for all Canadians.
Are you willing to publicly denounce Alberta separatism and the Alberta separatist movement ahead of a possible referendum on Alberta independence next year?
Look, I'm against separation. I'm a born and raised Albertan. I love Canada. I think we need to unite this country. Albertans have a lot of legitimate grievances. I mean, let's be blunt. Canada's biggest industry, which happens to largely be situated in Alberta, has been under attack for the last decade. They've lost 2 major pipelines, a $20 billion mine. There's a new ridiculous energy cap that's going to drive jobs and production south to the United States of America. There's an industrial carbon tax that's going to kill the industry. And so, frankly, Albertans have a right to be frustrated. And I think the message to the government in Ottawa, the Liberal government, is you can't tell Alberta to just pay up and shut up. Albertans want to be part of a united Canada, but they deserve to be treated with respect, and they deserve to be honored for the immense contribution that they make to this country. And I will be a unifier who works to bring all Albertans to a place where they feel that they are respected and honored in our wonderful country.
The government right now is 2 seats away from a majority government. The NDP has said that they already have some feelers going out from the Liberals to them to poach some of their members of Parliament. Do you have any indication that the Liberals are trying to get any of your MPs to cross the floor?
I do not.
And what are you doing to stop that? Or is your tone right now a more conciliatory to maybe make sure that you don't have any Conservative MPs who might want to go be with the government?
No.
What message? Canada-US file, on the Canada-US file, we're seeing Bellini.
How do you answer such a stupid question? Oh my god. Mainstream, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, people. Oh, Pierre.
Jolie moved off Foreign Affairs, David McGuinty moved off Public Safety. What impact do you think this will have with the Canada-US relationship? Is it good or bad?
To tell you the truth, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a line of sight on what they were doing before, those individual ministers, or who has really had lead on the file. But what I would say is that we want to get a deal done to end the tariff insanity, to restore stability, and bring about the greatest friendship, restore the greatest friendship that the world has ever known between two different countries.
And the last is in French, which he doesn't end up doing in English. There you have it. Now, I don't know. Like I said, this whole new cabinet isn't new at all. The media is trying to portray it as such. But it's definitely not. And it has got a lot of like I said, it's even aggravated more Western alienation than the election did. Just trying to keep up to all of the different social media, there is a lot of people who were humming and hawing that are now completely ready to leave. They didn't quite have the wool pulled over their eyes, but they were hoping that maybe Carney would make a difference. And it's not happening. So I'm not sure how this is really going to play out. They did take one Saskatchewan, the only Liberal that won in Saskatchewan. Scott Moe actually reached out and congratulated him, which is pretty big, I guess, of Moe to do so. But it doesn't make a difference, because as far as the rest of Saskatchewan and Alberta are concerned, those aren't people who think for the majority of their provinces, and it's the same people. They're not going to build pipelines. They're going to keep the cap. They're going to do everything they possibly can to shut down our resource sector. Guaranteed they're going to still go through with this auto combustion engine ban, which is going to decimate our auto industry. They're going to reinvest more of our tax dollars to try and prop up the already bad investments. They're going to double down and triple down on it, because this is what makes Brookfield rich. They're using your tax dollars. So it is what it is. It's a sad day. I was kind of hoping that Carney would boot them all out, although I knew he wasn't. He wasn't going to do that. There's no way, because he is the general of what Trudeau was doing for the last 10 years. Canada has sealed its fate. Until next time, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you are, punch the notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. I'm Alias the Guy. You've been watching Canadian Citizen Journal. Stay informed.